Awesome. And YouTube is buffering right now, but we will be up in a second. So, welcome to If They Won't Listen 22 first live show with the host Topher and myself, and we got two awesome guests. Please feel welcome to introduce yourselves.
Okay, I'm Brian Charlebois, and I have a few out there ideas I'd like to talk about, so that's why I'm here.
Awesome. And sorry, it's first live show. We're still learning stuff. Could you just repeat what you said, CJ? I'm almost positive I had our desktop audio muted here.
It's fine. Okay, then to repeat what I said, my name is Christopher. I host a small podcast called Curing Curiosity. I'm a college student. I'm a cashier during the daytime. That's basically it.
Awesome. No, thank you very much, man, for reiterating that. I just
No
wanted
problem.
to clear everything up there for the listeners. But yeah, thank you for everyone who's listening. This is our first live show. So, Brian, you just brought up a second ago. You had some stuff you wanted to bring up. Do you wanna enlighten us?
Well, last time we spoke, I think we had talked about my idea for how we should change the way the world is governed, and doing this with social networks. Basically, it's not actually a social network; it's actually more like Google combined with Yelp, and so it's a judgment system that would allow for better judgment and better governing everywhere in the world, I would suspect. So that's the plan.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I remember we touched on that last time. Last time you were here, we touched on your ideas about a better version of the internet. I remember we touched on that.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say about that pipeline? Because I have no idea about anything to do with that. I remember seeing picket signs in people's lawns over the last few years about that. What's the deal with that?
Keystone XL pipeline, I believe is what it's called, and it runs from Alberta here all the way down to southeastern United States. I'm not sure. Yeah, I can't remember exactly where, but a refinery area down there.
Okay.
And it was so that right now we ship all our oil via crude oil via a rail car. And so there's been a lot of spills and a lot of accidents with rail cars. So they claim this is going to be a more environmentally friendly way to transport oil. And that may very well be, but most people don't want to see the advancement of the oil industry at all. And that's why they're picketing this. And, so that's the controversy. Now, when Obama, he canceled that pipeline. He had started, and then he canceled it. And then when Trump got into power, he restarted it. And our province invested $1.5 billion into doing our part of it, and also backed up another $1.5 billion of loans. And now all that is a waste of money. So that's the big concern from our end of it. That was all done by our premier, Kenny. What the hell's his name? Kenny, anyway, we call him. And he banked all this money on the fact that he thought Trump would win again, or Biden at least would not cancel the pipeline. So that's a big mistake on his part. All of our provinces tied into that, and so that's the way it goes.
Huh. Okay, I guess that makes sense. I didn't know it had to do with oil. I mean, I knew it was a pipeline. For all I knew, it was a big tube for wires. No idea. I guess that makes sense. Different person in power, different stuff gonna happen.
Yeah. It was a dumb gamble from my point of view. I couldn't believe that they gambled everything on this. That the oil industry is a dying industry. We need to diversify in this province. And yet any money we have, we're going to sink it into more oil industry. It doesn't make sense. So it was a bad choice to make.
Yeah, fair enough. We almost touched on it before we were recording, but I wanted to save it to learn about it the first time because
we almost touched on it.
Chris, yeah, awesome. We almost touched on it before the show, but you do some podcasting. What's that about, CJ?
Yeah, I actually when I got into podcasting in August of 2020. So during the summer when I wasn't in school, I didn't even apply to college at the time. And I thought it's a good idea. I can see what happens if people like it, people like it, people don't, they don't. I can't really do anything about that because as long as I have fun with it, I don't care about anybody else's opinion.
Right? No, that
Yeah.
completely makes sense.
Yeah. And
Um,
it's also made me realize that I want to pursue video editing in the future because I
mhm.
actually find that kind of calming because you're in control. You know what to do. You know what has to be removed. You know what has to be added. So it's your control point, and it's amazing.
No, that completely makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm learning all that. I don't know my ass from my elbow at the moment about half of it. But yeah, no, it's that's a really cool thing. Um, yeah. So what's going
Well,
on?
I know that the recording I did with him was very good. I listened to it afterwards, and I thought it turned out very well. I think the editing you did was pretty good there.
Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no. We found out right before we went live that CJ here had done another podcast with Brian prior to coming on here, and so these are both our guests, but they actually knew each other, and it was unplanned, and it was a mere coincidence of the internet, and so that was kind of just just kind of slapstick funny.
Honestly, it's the second time it's actually happened to me because I was on another podcast with a friend of mine, and he didn't know that the second guest that he had planned that him and I already did a podcast as well.
That's
So it's the
hilarious.
second time this happens.
I thought the podcast world was way too big for this kind of thing to happen.
Apparently not.
Right.
It's very
Yeah,
small.
yeah.
That's funny. So CJ brought up a funny topic before the show. He said he's talked about it a few times, and I don't think I've ever talked about that on live. So I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
So what is you guys' favorite sandwich? Right? Like I think that's it's a pretty normal thing, hidden, but we all eat.
That's
So
easy.
yeah. So knock it out. Knock it out. What do you got, Topher?
That's easy. I found it once. I don't know why I didn't think about this myself because I love sandwiches. I've been historically speaking, I have made a sandwich out of anything and everything you could find in the refrigerator for leftovers. I've had baked bean sandwiches. I've made spaghetti sandwiches. I put a slab of lasagna on a piece of bread, fold it up, and nom nom. But my absolute favorite. Well, I'm sure Ricky knows this, but you guys and anybody else, Thanksgiving, as far as festivities, my favorite holiday because of the food, hands down. Favorite holiday, otherwise definitely Halloween, but that's for other reasons, some of which you can probably see hanging behind me. But in any case, so Thanksgiving dinner, I wait for that all year long. I don't know, something about it. You can have the turkey and you can make all the stuff any other time of the year, and it's just not the same somehow. It's
Yeah.
just good, but it's not quite the same. Well, a few years ago, we had a place I don't even think exists anymore, up here, a little sandwich shop up in Brandon, and I think they had to change the name of it for whatever reason, but they had a sandwich they called the Pilgrim, and it was, I want to say it was sourdough bread, toasted, turkey, stuffing, cranberry sauce, and mayonnaise.
Okay.
Oh, no, it was the cranberry sauce and gravy.
Oh, yeah.
And oh my God, it was
Yep.
amazing.
No, that sounds delicious, and I don't know if it's my favorite, but there's one here in town that little place right on Main Street that has a Thanksgiving special, and it's like turkey and cranberry sauce and stuffing, and I don't think there's mashed potatoes on it. I'm almost positive there's not, but it's like the just stuffing in a sandwich, and I forget the order of stuff, but it's very good. And I'm almost positive, because it's not Thanksgiving every day of the year, that most of that is like, quick open, like, they buy a can of cranberry sauce and put it on the sandwich. I know it's not fresh cranberry from, but moving past that, it's a delicious sandwich, and I love it. But but what do you got, CJ? What is your favorite sandwich if someone were to ask you? Chris is being the Pilgrim, turkey based.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'll like go into the topic of like Thanksgiving sandwiches because I don't ever remember making a sandwich out of my Thanksgiving leftovers. I remember eating them all separate and not putting them all together.
Okay.
It's like, it's what, maybe what, like the Tuesday after Thanksgiving for us. I just want to rest most of the time because I'm off from either work or school. Actually, what's funny, this past Thanksgiving, I had to work until 9 o'clock at night. So I didn't even have to have Thanksgiving with my family. I just like I was at work. It was completely dead and there was no customers. But I'm at my cash. I'm kneeling on the floor because my legs have been burning for 6 hours straight. I'm just like I want to go home. I just got home. It's like I'm tired. But my favorite sandwich, I'm a fan of breakfast sandwiches because I find myself eating a lot of those
Mm-hmm.
and making myself a lot of them because they're easy to make.
Yeah. No, they are
Yeah.
for sure. I'm a big breakfast. So what's your ideal breakfast sandwich though? Is it what's your main protein? A sausage or pork, or are you going vegan style? I don't want to talk about it, but I have to ask.
Actually, my breakfast sandwich is usually I make an omelet and then I just put it in between bread, which is simple enough. So basically, it's just chorizo is basically what I use most of the time.
Okay, damn, he's got high quality stuff in his kitchen.
Chorizo, yes. It's also like my favorite. So
Okay, okay.
that's basically the only protein other than eggs, and then I have just Kraft singles. Like they really just it works though.
Okay, no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
That's basically it.
Not my favorite sandwich, but to touch on that before we ask Brian, I'm a huge breakfast sandwich guy too. I do brunch and Brenner, and if I can put a BR and call it breakfast in front of something, I do it all day, every day. I'm always like a 2-egg over easy, slice of American cheese, and then bacon or sausage or whatever whatever spam. I don't even give a crap. Corned beef hash, and then bread, and I'm gone. I love over easy eggs. Just delicious.
Yeah.
But all right. So Brian, what do you got? If someone were to ask you straight up front, favorite sandwich, where are you at?
Well, if I'm on the road or something and I stop somewhere, I always get a clubhouse sandwich because it's really hard for a restaurant to screw it up. But if I'm making a sandwich myself, yeah, turkey I think is the best. I definitely love a turkey sandwich when I'm at home making my own sandwich. But you're talking about easy over eggs and stuff like that too. Yeah, that's I'm big on that too. I pride myself on doing breakfast. When we go camping, I got a whole camping kitchen and thing I set up. I can cook 5 packs of bacon at once. I can I've got this big griddle. I can do like about 8 eggs at a time, over easy. We do toast buns and then pancakes too usually. So
Nice.
I'm a big breakfast guy too. So.
No, that sounds delicious. And so it looks wow. Just so Chris bumped out. He had a little lag earlier this evening on his internet. And he still has a link to get back here, and he'll have no problem getting in. So we're gonna continue talking. So, but based on that, Brian just touched on the fact about like eating kind of like a camping setup. And that makes me want to think. So you guys are both from out of the United States. What do Canadians do for camping? Is it the same as an American? You grab a tent, and you go out, and you get really drunk and make a fire, and we never shoot guns randomly.
Never. You're not even supposed to have guns on us unless you have a permit.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we not handguns, not very often. Well,
Hunting.
I can't say that, but
I think we have like hunting permits. I think we're allowed to have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you guys go camping?
Oh yeah, I camp a lot. We camp a lot here in Canada. Yeah.
I absolutely love camping. I went camping a few years back for summer vacation, and I've missed it ever since because for some reason I love camping.
Yeah, I love camping too. But so when you say you love camping, and we switched from favorite foods, Topher, to camping, because Brian had a real camping type of setup, pancakes and some good food. But so when you think of camping, is it like my version of camping is a tent and back pain? And you know what I mean? Last time I went camping.
Yeah, no, my version of camping isn't a whole lot better. That's pretty much it. And can't say as I've really had a very pleasant experience camping. I love being outside. I love, sleeping outside, even tents in that hard ground. And I don't know about you. Well, you two probably not so much, but You know, Brian and I are getting too old for that shit.
Well, it has more to do with my wife. My wife won't lay on the hard ground either, and she pretty much won't camp in anything without hard walls. She won't sleep in a tent. She doesn't like tents. She's worried about bears and cougars or whatever. So.
But that's part of the adventure.
Yeah,
I love all that part. Don't get it wrong.
Yeah, risking your life.
Don't mind camping. I risk my life more every day than I ever would out in the woods.
Yeah,
my job.
Yeah, that's right. The risks are so low that there's really nothing to worry about. There's a place that we go camping every year, and it's a friend of mine bought some property in central BC, close to the American border, actually. And it's a beautiful spot. And there's bears that we see. You know where they say bears shit in the woods?
Yeah.
They don't actually. Bears do not actually shit in the woods.
Okay.
You know where they shit? They shit right in the middle of the fucking road. Seriously, every time they want to let everybody know that they're there, and they shit like they'll walk right down the middle of the road or a trail. If they're on a trail or anything like that, they shit right in the middle of the trail, and they do that on purpose. So anyway, so you can tell when there's bears around, and we've seen bear shit around our camp show up overnight, but they never came into the camp.
Okay.
And so
you just marked their territory around it, so you knew they were there.
Well, the thing is, they're avoiding us. They know better than to come around people. They tend to want to stay away if they know you're there, right? Yeah. So you could see where this bear came so close. He took a shit there, and then he went the other way. There was another way he could go out, and that's the way he went. Yep. And he could very easily tell from that spot that our camp was just down the road. So anyway, they tend to avoid people. Usually when you run into a bear, it's by accident. It's the accident for them and an accident for you. So
there's actually not to bring up something not delicate, not that I needed to preface it that way, but one of my favorite videos on one of my favorite subreddits is a guy who thought it was good to pull out his phone when he saw a brown bear and run up and kick it in the butt. And the bear turns around and just, he growls like twice. And the guy almost had an opportunity. When he saw that growl, if he ran, maybe it would have, made the bear chase him. But I thought that was his out. And he just stood there and looked and just stood there. And then, the bear growled 2 more times and down he went. And the camera was off. And it was like, okay, this guy had a bad day.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I saw that one. Wasn't the guy Russian? I don't know. People in the comments thought maybe he was Russian or something.
Very well, possibly. There was also another one, a real famous one. I don't know if he was Canadian, or from Canada rather. But it was a wildlife officer at a state park, and he had bear spray on him, and he didn't want to pull out his revolver because he didn't want to harm the bear. He was trying to be nature friendly, and I respect that personally. I would do the same thing until I was forced to really, but. At the end of the day, he expected the mace to work, and it didn't, and the bear did charge, and he did get messed up, and he survived, but he played the fetal, and I'm gonna say it worked because he's living, but he was I don't know if he was on Tosh.0, but he was on a TV show when I saw it, and literally his whole head was apart, and he was mauled by a bear. You don't need to describe it. He was mauled by a bear, and it was he was like, I didn't want to shoot it, I wanted to, and it was like, sheesh, so it's interesting to hear Brian say that they kind of stay away. I would worry about a bear if I was camping in super, super, super miles from civilization,
Yeah. Well, it's not very often that they stalk people, but they do once in a while. And that's usually an old bear that's really hungry for some reason, or, and if you ever suspect a bear is stalking you, the playing dead doesn't work. So, because he's looking to eat you anyway, right?
He's like, oh, I don't have to chase it anymore.
It's like,
yeah.
They're already dead. It's like, no hassle.
Yeah, it's when a bear is startled and you run across it, and it might jump at you and attack you just because that's its first instinct. then it'll probably, if you just play dead, it's likely going to leave you alone. And a lot of people do survive that way too. So it's kind of a guessing game when you run into a bear. Gotta assess the situation. But if it's looking at you as food, your only choice is to get as big as you can and act really big and tough and try to scare it.
That's the move
Yeah.
every time, like no matter what. Really? Fuck. I gotta up my bear knowledge. If I saw a bear, I wouldn't be trying to outbear it.
Sometimes that's your only choice because you're not going to outrun them in a lot of cases. So,
Wow.
and if you're running, then they find you an easy target. So it can be a tough choice. There are people that have fought off bears though, and it can be done.
Yeah, just not very easily. You need a weapon.
Like he was near a
At least
cliff
one weapon.
or something.
They might eat the first one if you're not careful.
Gosh. So what about you, Brian? Though, like you said the other person you were talking about needs the 4 walls for bear protection. What's your version of camping? Are you a tent guy? Like you can rock with a tent?
I can rough it out in almost any situation. We had one bad situation a long time ago now. The kids are grown, but they were pretty young at the time, and a friend of mine had a jet boat, and we go up the river. And in town here, we have the Saskatchewan River. And he decided to take a route around an island on the way home. So we were going up the river and the kids were tubing. So they're all in bathing suits and everything. And this was pretty late in the fall, October. And anyway, on the way back, he decided to take this way that he hadn't gone before. And he ended up getting the jet boat stuck up on a bank.
Okay.
And so the water level had gone down, and anyway, we ended up getting stuck there. We worked for hours now. We're trying to move this thing. We ended up getting stuck there overnight, and us, the kids, everybody's just in bathing suits. Nobody even brought any change of clothes or anything. We were expected to be back in a few hours, right? And ended up having to spend the night on the side of the bank and build a fire and everything. The boat tarp was the only thing we had to try and stay warm, build a fire, and roughed it out for the night. And anyway, that was the roughest camping I ever had to do. And there was 3 adults, me, my buddy, and a friend of his, and I think we had about 8 kids.
Wow.
So yeah, so they did really well. I was really impressed with the kids. Nobody panicked. Everybody took it easy, and we roughed it out right there on the side of the river for the night. And next day, we had a lot of work, managed to get that boat out back into the water, and then we went back on our way. But yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah, I haven't had any. To my memory, I haven't had any crazy camping stories that ended in just like crazy things. But no, I really like camping. The last mistake I made the last time I went camping, I can tell you that, is I put my tent literally 5 feet from a river because I was like, ooh, I want the soothing sounds. It's not no app or no speaker. I don't know. I was acting like a white woman or something. I don't know. I was like, I want pure water trickling, and I put my tent on the water, and I set my tent up prematurely. I mean, I set it up the second we got to camp at like 10 a.m. with not rapids, but running water that had, overspray, somewhat, you might think. And I had a water guard on my thing, but only on the top. Well, the lake didn't attack it from the top. It attacked it from the side, right through the side of the tent. It soaked all my blankets long before I got into bed. So when I got into bed, it was soaked. If I wasn't super liquored up, I wouldn't have fell asleep. But it was a lesson. If you sleep next to water, either have a waterproof tent or don't put your tent on the water. It's like, okay, lesson ingrained in my mind. If I'm ever out in the wilderness and I can't afford to get wet, don't sleep near water.
Yeah. So the water level came up quite a bit overnight.
It's not that it came up. It was just like the spraying of it hitting off rocks. It did, even when I was setting up the tent, I wasn't getting wet, but maybe wind carried it. I don't know the explanation, but over the course of me setting it up and throwing all my gear in it to laying down, all my blankets were soaked. And you know what I mean? It wasn't like a prank from one of my fellow campers. I was helping them set up their tents. So it was just I was too close to the river, and overspray was catching me or something. But it was hilarious, and I didn't care. I was so excited to go camping. It was my first time camping in Vermont, so really cool, and I can't wait to do more. But what about you, Topher? When was the last time you went camping?
I haven't really been camping since I was a kid, and most of my experiences there were like school field trips. The whole class would go camping for a week at some place here locally.
Mm-hmm.
And that many kids camping all at once, it's not going to be a good experience for anybody.
Right.
Chaperones must have hated life by the end of it.
What age group were you doing group
Well,
chaperone?
we're talking, I was probably 6th grade.
Oh God, so that's only shit. Like that's young, like not super young, but young enough. Like
No,
you
but
still don't.
that's young enough for what the fuck were we thinking?
True. A big topic I wanted to bring up, not to segue off camping, but we've touched on camping and sandwiches. So now, breaking out the big guns. Let me tell you
There's
something.
no segue.
There's no segue. We
Dropping a
just
bomb.
Yeah.
boom.
Yeah.
But no. So I was just listening to the Rogan podcast the other day, and he had this guy Avi Loeb on, and me and Chris touched on this a little bit last night. And I talked with a few other people about it, and there was this interstellar object that came into orbit back in 2017, and it's the first ever interstellar object that we know of. Like every other pattern that we were able to discern based on telescopes, and I don't know if the word for the definition of
tracing
it, but like knowing its destination and origin and where it will go and yada yada through measurement and math. They said that it was weird. The entire scientific community didn't hype it up. They were like, this is a completely unique object, that's for sure. It possesses things that other things don't possess. They quickly ruled it wasn't an asteroid and it wasn't a comet based on the fact that out of almost 750,000 different sightings of things, this doesn't match any of them. Like not a single one. It was, it was too big to be, and don't quote me on what, the definition of an asteroid to a comet, but they ruled out first that based on size, it wasn't one of them. And then after that, they then said that based on it being not, say an asteroid, for instance, well, the other one that was left over, whether it had been an asteroid or a comet, that it would have been engulfed in debris. Like it would have had, like in the movie Armageddon, it would have had a big storm cloud around it, and it would have almost had extra propulsion based on the fact that it had its own mini atmosphere. There was stuff flying around it, and it was its own, rock and mini. If things break off, they float near it. You know what I mean? Like that. Kind of like in the movie Armageddon for a video explanation. But there was none of that. 100% none of that. All the telescopes that saw it, the multiple ones across the entire planet, there was no debris around it. It didn't match the size components of what we consider an asteroid or a comet. And every, whether it was 6 or 12 hours, it fluctuated times 10 to the amount of light that it was showing. So if it was a brightness level on your phone, over the course of 12 or 6 hours, whatever it was, it went from level 1 to level 10 and then back to level 1. And so the guy who I was listening to deduced that, well, okay, that's an ability based on, solar effects from the sun. The fact that the sun, is unlimited energy, and it could technically the most effective solar propulsion system would be the sun. It's unlimited, and until we find another sun, we have ours. And so it's free energy. And so it's, as it rotated, it magnified in light. It didn't match asteroid or comet specs. It came from out of the galaxy, we're 100% sure of. And we were trying to match the patterns of it with other planets that are in our understanding and rotation. But it was like, as they were thinking about when it would have been near Venus, well, Venus wasn't near where it would have been for 300,000 years or something. And so it was like, okay, we can't compare it to any other thing we know, because any other thing we know just didn't happen to be near it then. And it was like, so I've looked up, from National Geographic reports about it to, scientific.org to nasa.org, all sorts of different versions of the resource. It's 100% real, and the name is Oumuamua is the name of it. but it was just because I think it was first sighted on a Hawaiian telescope, and so it was deemed a Hawaiian name or something. I believe that's the definition of it. But
Makes sense.
it just
Yeah.
it riveted me because the guy who came on Rogan named A.V. Loeb, it was an episode in the last 3 weeks, he thinks it was an alien, like alien spacecraft, literally. And obviously that's like out there enough that you shouldn't talk about it. And he's getting a lot of flack for saying it is, compared to the fact that, you know, all the other scientific community was like, oh, it's just, you know, yada yada, and it's, you know, it's just this. But he came right out and said, look, dude, we've been studying stuff for the entirety of, you know, all of time that we've had these telescopes, and no asteroid, no comet, no object that we've ever tracked its, you know, its record of where it's been or where it's going match this. And it was like, okay, that's, you know, that's kind of, you know, I've never heard about anything like that, like in my life. You know what I mean?
No, me either. I remember it very well. I was really shocked by the whole thing. I was surprised there wasn't more talk about it. You're right, but I think it's because they found it late. It was already on its way by the time they saw it. And if they would have seen it a lot sooner, I think there would have been a lot of more effort to study and stuff. Eh?
Yeah, yeah. It was only near us for like 2 actual weeks. Like that was it. 2 total weeks it was near us, and then it was absolutely gone. And then there was you know, we can still track where it's going to be for a very large amount of time, but it's not close enough that we have the technology to view it anymore. And it's just, I don't know. I don't think enough about space things. You know what I mean? Like after listening to this, I was like, God damn! Like in my 26 years, let's call it 10 or 11 years of me choosing, so to speak, what I'm thinking about. You know, like when you're a kid, you don't really choose what to think about. You're not thinking about outer worldly things. You're focused on what your parents tell you. And you know, so, you know, call it 14 or 15. So 10 or 11 years I've been thinking about stuff. Is stuff in space and, you know, stuff from outer space. That stuff's not in my orbit. Like I know nothing about it. Someone could tell me, oh, it's this, or oh, it's that, or oh, it's, you know, and I wouldn't know my ass from my elbow. You know.
Well, I've come up with a few theories in space. So there's a couple areas that I touch on, and I've spent a fair amount of time thinking about it. I think I know which way some kinds of development will take place. I don't think Elon Musk is correct in colonizing Mars. I think we will do it anyway, but that's not the best alternative. You know, he wants to save the human race by getting a multi-planetary. And I think that's actually a mistake to think that we're going to be able to transform Mars or build something that is totally self-sufficient on Mars. So that's my thought on it. And I think the best way is to build spaceships that we can live on.
Yeah, yeah,
That makes sense.
Permanent spaceships that we live on permanently.
Okay, yeah. So like, what was the? It was 2012 where they chose an on-Earth version of a big construct of a thing to protect everyone. They built like ships surrounded by braces, and because they believed our apocalypse was from a tidal wave, and so, you know, when the tidal wave came, they were in a ship, the braces broke, and then the ship floated to the top, and it was you know, a big difference. But I've never thought about that in the sense of space. So what are your theories on space here? Like, what do you got in the pipes in the chamber? Because like I said, I know nothing. We can go around table here. I mean, Topher and Brian
Sure.
being the you know, the more experienced in age, I know nothing about it. You know what I mean?
That's the way. I mean, space is just an amazing concept in itself. It's just that there's so much of it, we have no idea what's out there. You
Yeah,
can't even.
I think that's going to be one of those things. It doesn't matter how old you are, how long you've been around. I mean, you could have been around when War of the Worlds was read out on the radio and freaked everybody out. You could be 20 years old. You could be 14. Our concept of space all the way around really hasn't changed much because there's just so much we don't know. I mean, there's little things like when Brian and I were kids, Pluto was still a planet.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck they're thinking there. I mean, come on. But that's, you know, we're bent on labeling things as a race. Everything has to have a label, and they decided Pluto didn't fit the label anymore. Whatever. But other than stupid little shit like that, and yeah, we've discovered more. It hasn't changed a whole lot because there's just so much we don't know.
So where so that's your opinion, Topher, and let's go around table. So we don't know. You know, that's definitely opinion. CJ, you got any thoughts on the matter? I mean, you're
Not really, because I mean, space is amazing. I'll give you that much. I mean, to even go into space is cool, to experience zero gravity and all that stuff. But also, if like, let's say you are in space and you're in a space, you're doing a spacewalk. Something goes wrong, and either your helmet just opens or your oxygen tank just pops. If your helmet opens, you're gonna die from like maybe like 5 different ways, not once, because your blood's gonna boil because you're close to the sun. You're going to choke because there's no air. You're gonna freeze. I don't know what else your lungs are gonna probably collapse. So you're gonna die from like maybe 4 or 5 different ways if your helmet just malfunctions open. That's also scary to think about. Imagine just dying in space and your body just floating off and never being found.
no, that's fucking terrifying. Like
Exactly.
I've seen enough space movies to know that flying out into space is a bad thing.
But it would be cool to do.
It would be, but okay, so we've touched on Topher and we've touched on that. And Brian, you gave your idea, but
You need to quit touching me.
screw off. But all right, so where are we at with aliens? Like, do you think they've been here? They've never been here. They're not watching us. It's preposterous to talk about. I mean, I've studied enough philosophy to know that if you understand what a fallacious argument is, disputing an argument based on another part of your life, it's not accurate. You can't say, oh well, Steve knows nothing about aliens because he sucks at math and he's not a good husband. Like, none of those things relate to your experience in the sense of an alien. And so you meet all these people who aren't reliable, but they're not reliable by your standard of every other part of life. Not reliable, it's like, so, and I don't know. It's a really weird paradigm, but I try to give everyone a chance, no matter how out there you are, because you might know something I don't, and that's fair. And even if you're really out there, I mean, I'm really out there to people who I think are normal. So it's a connection, but
Yeah.
I don't know shit about aliens. I've never had an experience seeing a ghost. I mean, the craziest experience I've ever had in my life was, I don't even know. Like, it didn't involve space or ghosts or anything like that. So I can't relate to that. But I don't know. What about the pyramids? Do you guys know anything about the pyramids? Any of you guys?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so Brian, you can back me up on this, and I'm gonna botch all of this. Anyone who's listening, I don't know my ass from my elbow, but I know some of this is accurate. Google it, check it. I'm not speaking facts. I'm speaking my opinion. But the pyramids are not built based on, like, let's throw this block here and this block here, down to a finite measurement. The length and width and height, all of it connects to like number per number within very, very tight limitations as far as like an estimation would allow. As for the solar system, like it mapped the planet, the width and the length of the pyramid, one of them, or at least, was like the planet's diameter or radius or something like that. And as far as circumference, it was measurements like that pertain to the planet. Brian, help me out.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a big believer in the ancient aliens theory. That's I think we were a lot more capable than people give us credit for. Early humans had I think back at that time, we were just as smart as we are now. Just we didn't have the knowledge base to give us the ability to do a lot of things. But they had a big knowledge base for at the time, and it amazes me the things that they've built. There's no doubt about it. But I don't see any reason to have to say that it came from aliens at all. I think humans were capable of doing all this, and we see where people have done some incredible things that we know for sure that they did. So it does. I'm not a big believer. I don't believe in ghosts or aliens. The closest I get to it, this is kind of relates to camping. The property by chance that my friend bought in BC, and this is where we go camping all the time. There was a cult there before, and there were the Stargate cult or something like that. And my buddy thinks they were related to the ones that were they committed suicide trying to get the Hale Bop when the Hale Bop comet came.
Okay.
There was a there was some mass suicides here in Canada, and then some mass suicides in Europe, in Sweden or someplace like this. I can't remember, Finland maybe. And it was from this cult. And it's quite curious. In the outhouse there, everybody that had been there had signed the outhouse, and they would have these festivals every July. They had a festival, and they called it the Stargate Festival. And they would a whole bunch of people. You could tell like it's a beautiful spot, this property. And then what the other thing they did was they built a kind of a little replica, not quite of Stonehenge, but in some ways like Stonehenge. They built a ditch and a hill all the way around in a circle. Stonehenge, I don't know, most people don't realize this, but it's a big out a ways from it. It's in a circle that's a ditch and a hill. So they dug up the dirt from the ground and threw it on top to make a hill, and then ditch, and then to the building or the rocks themselves. So anyway, they did that, and then in the middle they arranged rocks in kind of a maze pattern. And so anyway, they've got this spot there that's some religious site or whatever there. And I always like to make fun because some of our friends are kind of superstitious and believe in aliens. And I always say, why don't we take the Ouija board up to the maze at midnight and see what happens? Nobody seems to want to do it. So
here's a really weird, odd thought. We look at people like that and we say, man, wow. But hey, whatever gets you through the day. What if they're right?
Right.
Nobody but them would know. Any of these cults that have committed mass suicides over whatever, for whatever, these ones wanted to ride the comet.
Yeah.
Maybe they're riding the comet right now. We don't fucking know.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, like one of my favorite comedians, Brian Posehn, he had a skit. Part of it was religion's weird. And he said, inherent in everybody's religion is the idea that they are right. That is like, the one true religion. And so he goes on like, what if we're all wrong, except that crazy guy on the corner, pants full of poo, fighting a ghost? Maybe he's right. Maybe he's got it. Nobody knows or will know until they die.
No, that's pretty fair, and that's the thing with conspiracies too, isn't it? Like, you're only a conspiracy theorist when you're unproved and can't legitimize anything you have to do.
We don't know. They could be complete. I mean, how many times have I brought things up? Because I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it's altogether possible that this is why this works like that. It could be the government doing this.
I was thinking about go all the way back to the point in time where we're talking about electricity being created. You're telling me that guy wasn't looked at like a conspiracy theorist?
Oh, hell
and
yeah.
He was working off pure math and pure fundamentals of understanding that were peaked in the point of like intellectual, like just genius. Like, because the fact that someone could do that when no one else thought of that, or not that no one else thought of that, but that in a close proximity, no one person knew another who studied it, and it's crazy to think about, because in today's age, it's if someone says I see a spaceship, I'm not going to believe them. But there's multiple people who have been on the Rogan show, and not that that's the most credible source, but just it's the biggest show in America, so I think it's fair to credit that.
Yeah.
The Tic Tac phenomenon that happened, there was a spaceship that went from fucking 60,000 feet with a jet fighter behind it to 1 foot above the water level, and it was filmed by multiple sources. It was seen by all radar. It was seen by all like a plethora of sources, and of course it wasn't disclosed to the world at first. It waited a long time, and so it lost its steam. But Commander Fravor, I want to say, is the guy, and he was a very high-ranking person in the military who actually saw it and was in the jet. And it's perplexing to think about. I mean, imagine if you were in a fucking jet, you know what I mean, and you actually saw some wild shit. Do you go back to your boss and tell him? You know what I mean? Like, really think about that. Like, are you going to have a job if you tell your boss you saw an alien spacecraft? Like, luckily he had a radar backing him up, and the person on his headset was telling him, yo, I see this. What's in front of you? And he's like, I see it. I don't know. It's kind of like it's this thing. He's describing it, and then fucking snap, and in less than a second, it went from fucking his altitude to 1 foot above sea level, still on radar, and he's perplexed because there's no tech in the world that exists for any country that can do that. That's public. I mean, there could be stealth tech, who knows, but still, it was a manner of like, holy shit. And I've heard it brought up a plethora of times now, and it's like, you don't change the rule because of the exception. But if the exception changes the plausibility of whether or not that's true or not, like, you know what I mean? If we know gravity exists, you jump and you fall, we don't fucking question it. But if that's the same with alien culture, you know what I mean? Aliens don't exist, they won't exist, they never have, period. Then anyone who comes out saying, oh, I've seen this, isn't going to be taken seriously. You know what I mean?
Sorry, I'm watching CJ play with that curl, and I'm trying to figure out if he needs some hair gel or if it's a fidget spinner.
I just play with my curl.
I wasn't even noticing that, bro.
No, I'm just like trying to fix my curl, see if I can get it straight, and just like, nah.
Watch your phone just pulls the headband down. That was when I like, I just couldn't hold it anymore. I was trying so hard.
I apologize.
No, it's all good. That's what this show is about, brother.
I've literally I've apologized for apologizing so much. My mom gets mad at me for apologizing so much. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm saying sorry.
You got to move to Canada then.
I am Canadian, so I don't know about that.
Yeah, you gotta move.
Oh,
You
yeah.
just have to end it with A. Sorry, I couldn't.
I'm French Canadian. I can't help myself. I can even speak French, but so.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Sorry about
Yeah.
that, CJ.
That's all right.
But so, where are you guys at, like, as far as your conception? Like, if you firsthand someone told you they saw something, are you 100% dismissing it, or are you gonna be like, well, describe to me what you saw, Jeffrey? You know what I mean? Like, where are you guys at? Let's go. You said, you know what I mean? What do you got?
Oh god.
I want to hear more.
Like, if someone would have told me, it's like, oh, I just saw like an alien spacecraft type thing, I'm just like, I would be skeptical, because that's just who I am. Because I would need to just see it with my own eyes to believe it. Because that could just be like, they could just be making up something. Let's be honest, just to get attention. Let's say it's that. Let's say they actually saw something that could be an alien spacecraft. I would need to. I like partly believe them, partly not, because that's just who I am. Because I also have trust issues with people.
Okay.
Like,
Believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see.
I live by that. I live by that.
You know, that was a saying when I was a kid. It fits more now because the internet really wasn't a thing then. Now with internet and technology, you can doctor anything and people are good enough at it to make it look like it was really there. Case in point, all the Bernie memes that are going around. He looks like, in a lot of these,
Yeah,
you can tell it's
what
cut and pasted. A lot of them, it looks like he's there.
I'm not kidding. I'm pretty sure somebody like uploaded like the knitting patterns for his mittens.
Yeah.
Dude, I didn't even know what anyone was talking about when it came to a Bernie meme, and someone today said to me something about Bernie memes, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I've seen them, and I really thought about it, and I was like, oh my god, no, I really have. I've seen them, and yeah, no. So where was he sitting when that share took place, and why is it relevant right now? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think it was the inauguration, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think it was inauguration.
Oh,
He's
he
just
was
sitting
there
alone.
dressed like that, like in a fucking cuddly teddy bear at the inauguration.
Just like sitting alone in the inauguration with his mittens.
Dude, mad people talked about it. I know that. I didn't know anything about it as far as things went.
No, neither did I. I just started seeing memes and pictures pop up all over the place. People are having way too much fun with it.
See Bernie Sanders popping up everywhere. It's like, this is fun. Now this is society. Great.
So let's cross it. I already heard Brian tell me no ghosts, not a ghost man. Confirming, right? No ghosts.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't believe in ghosts or aliens here. I believe aliens are out there. I just don't think we're connecting with them very easily. That's what I think.
Okay, we'll check both of those, and I'll choose new topics. Topher, where are you at? Are aliens here? Have they been here? Are they looking at us? And then secondarily to that, the second part.
I don't know. That's one of those things. I could go either way. You know, if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, man, I saw this," Cool. I don't know that I would necessarily believe it, but I wouldn't necessarily not believe it either because, very honestly, we don't know.
Yeah.
And if there are aliens out there, who's to say they aren't here? And again, I don't necessarily believe it, but who's to say they don't either look just like us in the first place or have some kind of technology because they're that far? I mean, obviously, if they came here from a different solar system, because it would have to be, maybe even a different galaxy, they would have to be way, way advanced in technology. Who's to say they wouldn't have something that, they could look like, they could be lizard people, they could be rock people, they could be amoebas, they could be whatever, and we wouldn't know it because they just have this little device on the side of their neck that we don't even know is there, that they can turn on and off and make themselves look like one of us. And it automatically translates to our language wherever they happen to be. And again, yeah, we're talking about sci-fi, but if there are aliens out there that could be here, if they were here, obviously that technology would have to exist. So, who the hell knows? I believe it's possible.
I'm with you. CJ, where are we at? Oh, that's secondarily. Chris first. Ghosts, where you at? Real? Not real?
I've never actually seen any, but I've had enough dealings with people and close dealings with, like, when I was still married, we were sitting in the living room one day. I was supposed to go see Tesla up at the Pickle Barrel that night, and I had the day off. It was the weekend. I was cleaning. My wallet disappeared. My wallet that had the tickets in it disappeared.
Okay.
So I tore the house apart. Could not find my wallet. Was mad. I was seriously mad. I finally calmed down enough, and we sat, and the three of us watched a movie, and the movie, the credits were rolling, and my ex-wife just kind of, we were talking, and I saw her, she stiffened and goes, she's right there. I'm like, well, to give you a little background there, she claims, and I have no reason to not believe it, we had a ghost. I mean, you could wake up in the first thing in the morning and smell blueberry muffins sometimes, which was really weird. So it was this old, like, nice little old lady who liked to bake, apparently. But usually, my ex-wife would see her every once in a while out of the corner of her eye, whatever, in a doorway. Okay, fine. Well, the way the living room was set up, the door was in front of us on the right-hand side. Then we had the TV on that wall, the couch, and I was sitting in the recliner right here by the closet. Well, like I said, she stiffened and she goes, she's right there. Like, where? In front of the closet, right next to you. And I looked, and obviously I'm not going to see anything. I don't see anything anyway, so all I have to go by is other people's experiences. But I looked, and I looked at my ex-wife, and I looked back at the closet, and I went, got up, opened the closet doors, looked up on the top shelf in this little, it was like one of the containers you get lunch meat in, the plastic containers. We get it out of the cooler. One of those I had filled with like random odd nuts and bolts and screws, and my wallet was sitting on top of it. A little too late to go to the concert, obviously, but that's the closest dealing I've ever had. And again,
so you're a yes.
I don't know because I've never seen her. I smelled the blueberry muffins first thing in the morning, more than once. And I have other stories I could relate, but we'd end up here for just an hour listening to me ramble about things that happen to other people.
It's okay. We really like you most days. But no. So, are you a yes or a maybe? So we're I don't know on aliens. For
I'd have to say I think he's saying maybe.
is that a
It's
maybe?
maybe.
At least a maybe, but maybe a
I'm
yes.
saying I believe it's possible. I'm not discounting it at all. I believe it does happen. I believe it can happen. Have I
Okay,
ever actually
3/5.
seen an alien or a ghost? A ghost, no. An alien,
Okay,
I
Brian.
don't know. Maybe.
No. Okay, we're a no alien ghost. Chris, we're a
Yeah.
no. I don't know / alien and a 3/5 ghost. Not no, kind of maybe. We're kind of there. All right, now final submission before I say what no one wants to hear. CJ, and
Yep.
where are you at? We got some submissions here. We are 0 for 2 on aliens. So for you know what I mean, 1.5 on aliens, and we're 0 for 1.5 on ghosts. So break these fucking
Great
ties
fractions.
for
I
us.
love fractions. I mean for aliens, I have to agree with Sulfur. You don't know what's out there. You can't possibly even begin to imagine what's beyond our solar system. Like they could. It's all possible. But we don't know yet. So I think for aliens, for me, I'd be like, I don't know. Maybe more lean towards no rather than yes, but like, I don't know side for that. And for ghosts, my mom believes in ghosts. She does, because she feels like her mom's spirits just follows her where she goes. I'm like, okay, that's cool. You believe in ghosts. I don't. Because that's just not me. I've never had an encounter with one. I don't know anybody outside of my mom who's had an encounter with a ghost. So I can't really say I have any first hands-on experience with that myself.
Okay. So let's
So,
tally the
and,
view. All
I
right,
just have
go.
to say, you're Latino in origin, correct, sir?
Me?
Yes.
No.
That's a rough
No?
guess. It's rough shoot. It's rough shoot.
Greek.
Yes.
Wow.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because my last name is visible.
Yeah, no, I see it. I was thinking about it. I was thinking, but
Half Greek, half Italian.
there's a very strong religious background in that part of the world anyway.
True.
Even back in the old days, to the Greek gods.
It's like Orthodox Greek.
You know,
Yeah.
so that again, not being, you know, it's kind of stereotype, but not really. Stereotypes exist for a reason, you know. But that actually kind of explains your mother is more old school, and she'll have more. That's I get that completely. That makes total sense. But we, like the younger generations, like my grandparents and great grandparents, were set in their ways and still kind of a mishmash because I mean, my great grandfather was German. Actually, I had German great grandparents on both sides, and then another one that was Italian. And then the other one, there was a little bit of Scottish here and a little bit of this there and a little bit of that there. But I got to experience all of that myself firsthand. But me personally, I mean, I don't know. You know, we're more open to, yeah, okay, maybe not.
Okay.
Who knows? I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, true. Same.
So running through it, we got Brian in for 00, no ghosts, no aliens. We got Chris in for no ghost, or sorry, no aliens, half ghost. Is that right? Right? No, you were on a May 3/5 ghost. So we're gonna call it half for easy math, so I don't get to murder my brain.
I think that Brian is so adamant about it because he's trying to distract us, because he's actually an alien, or maybe he's a ghost alien.
Ghost alien, even better.
A ghost alien, Jesus, dude, he'd be both of the categories. Okay.
I call him Space Ghost.
So
There's a throwback.
I don't have a fucking clue, man. I really don't. I mean, there's lots I hear about. I can say that. There's lots I hear about of all sorts of different types of things, and all I really think about when it comes to that is I think mostly about my existence. I don't think about aliens or space, but I've never had a ghost encounter. You know, I have family members who have. My grandmother believes, you know, that there are, and she's seen people, and you know what I mean? It's so hard to try to not discredit someone, because it's like, you know, what's the logic behind it? If you're trying to base things off logic and it's not based in a logic-based subject, it's like, okay, so we're at a 0 for 0. But I don't think that means it's not true. So I don't know. But I've heard a lot of credible people who I trust with. Most of the people who I believe, or who have told me they've seen a ghost, who I would trust with my life, handing them a firearm. Almost all of them, are adamant they've seen it. In the sense of aliens, I've never had an encounter, so I have no idea. It started in my life about like Area 51. You know what I mean? People were like, "Oh, this and that, and yada yada," and fucking, it was completely out there. But I mean, in the sense of general conspiracy theories, are any of you favorable to a topic in which, when you bring up to a person, you're aware, at least based on past experience, that you have to be careful? You know what I mean? Like, I know personally. Sorry, had to clear my throat. But I know personally from experience that when I'm talking about philosophy or metaphysics, why are we alive? What is life's purpose? I need to be aware that 99% of people don't give two fucks. They want me to shut up. They think it's stupid, and they want to go back to playing Minecraft. So, like, I'm not mad at them, but, like, I'm very curious. Like, what is
I'll
the
talk
purpose?
to you all day long. I just don't want to hear this water's not wet shit.
It's
And I understand the physics behind it. I do understand your point. I want to make that very clear. However, you're splitting hairs by saying water's not wet. Who the fuck cares? That's that labeling thing we were talking
Not
about
important.
earlier. It's so annoying. It's like being politically correct. I'm a waste management engineer. No, you're a trash man.
I like facilitation engineer of cleanliness to the utmost. But you want to call me a
Janitorial
dump?
engineer.
You want to call me a dump guy? Your prerogative. I'm not gonna fight you. But no. Dude, all three of you, whether it be CJ, Topher, or Brian, do any of you hold views that you wouldn't bring up as the first topic? Like, what's the furthest view that you would bring up to, whether it be a friend that you just met, or a date, or or just an acquaintance? What's the not the most secret part of you, but the most public and least spoke about part of you? You know what I mean? Like I said, I don't bring up why do we exist, or how your brain works, because everyone thinks I'm a fucking nuthead. But in the sense of you guys, like, what do you not talk about because you're worried about the person you're talking? Not majorly worried, but to some degree worried about the person you're talking about just zipping and zapping. Or where we at?
Go ahead, CJ.
Ooh. I mean, okay. There's one that stands out, and I haven't even spoken to anybody about this. I think people have a clue. They might think like, okay, maybe this is it. I've just never told anybody. It's the fact that I personally might be a hopeless romantic. And like, okay, looking back at like my past, probably because I've been in 3 relationships. 2 of them ended badly. 1 of them ended okay.
Okay.
I still got broken up with 3 times, so that wasn't like great. But like, I also found myself just like going after person after person. And at this point, I'm just like, I need to stop because it's not healthy at that point. Because you're constantly going after because you're hopeless, and that's the whole point of hopeless romantic. But at this point, I just took a moment to like, if I actually am this, I don't want to be, because it's
I've
not
done
healthy.
This thing,
Yeah.
been there and done that, and I found that when you actually stop looking to other people and for other people to complete your life, one, it enhances your life and lets you look deeper at yourself, and you can actually work on yourself and the things that really are important to you. And
Yep.
2, that's when the right person's going to come along, is when you're ready.
Yeah.
And it'll happen like chance meeting, like my girlfriend and we known each other for probably, I want to say like 28 years. We happened to run into each other 3.5 years ago. Didn't even realize that we dated like 28 years ago. And, we suddenly realized that we lived literally a block apart. I could look from my front porch through the alley between the two houses across the street and see her back door.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we just happened to run into each other, and it was, well, 3.5 years later, and I'm quite happy where I'm at.
No, most certainly, and I'm with you. You know what I mean? In the sense of a hopeless romantic. I mean, I can't say I've ever wanted less than the best circumstance for my goals in the sense of being with someone. It's just more of a circumstance of what I have as opposed to what I want. You know, like I'm true to accepting what I can get, and so that's definitely clouded my judgment. But no, I agree with you, man. I think I can agree with you to some degree. If I met someone who I wanted to be with, or who was my friend, or who was my acquaintance, I might not tell them that I'm super lovey-dovey and I have a hopeless intent for wanting to be perfect because of some degree of them being like, oh well, you're fucking stupid, you know. So I can get that and I can relate. And before we get Topher's or Brian's, Brian, where are you at? Are you a hopeless romantic, or are you a like, I don't give a fuck?
Well, you guys are getting off the topic, but when it comes to
Sure.
what I'd be worried about bringing up with the people I tend to run into around here, this is Edmonton, Alberta. Everybody's kind of very redneck, very. I live rurally too, as opposed to living in downtown in the city. And so anyway, I'm much more of a socialist than most of the other people. So anyway, I don't go there when I talk, when I first meet somebody or whatever. I don't talk politics generally. I avoid politics entirely. Um, and so anyway, that's an area that I tend to avoid with most people I run into for whatever reason, work or business or whatever. Um,
Yeah, politics
but
and religion are always touchy for the same
yeah,
reason. Everybody thinks their religion is inherent in it. Everybody's right. And the same thing
yeah,
about politics. Everybody's right. So
yeah, yeah. I used to like to ask people whether or not they believed in evolution or not. And I hardly got any responses of people that did believe in evolution. And so anyway, it often kind of got bad into a bad area of conversation. So eventually I stopped asking people that. But I kind of liked it because it would get the conversation pretty lively. But, a lot of the people that I know are fairly religious, and or even if they're not, they may not follow a specific religion, but they still don't believe in evolution. So anyway, it amazes me how much. So anyway, I don't bring that up very often anymore, but I think it's a funny one when you do.
Yeah, no, most certainly. And I didn't mean to catch you off guard talking about being a hopeless romantic. I wanted to extend CJ's to the utmost, being that Christopher rebounded it and I spoke about it. I wanted to touch everybody.
Yeah.
But no, I was totally aware of, talking about the
Well,
least things
I,
you wanted to
I've
talk
been
about.
married now for like 24 years, so it's been a while for me. But I kind of had a weird way of um, picking a mate or what have you. Um, a funny way to say it. But anyway, my wife, and to me, I have the greatest marriage. I think everything's just fantastic. Um, she, we, we had a relationship. We met camping on a May long weekend. And we were actually arguing about what I thought at the time about self-governing and everything else that I get into. Right? So anyway, that's how long I've been on this. So, and actually long before that. So anyway, um, we got into arguing that night or what have you. But anyway, the point is we ended up getting into a relationship with no commitments. And I, from watching other people, I always looked at other people in their relationships and I saw how they always really had a hard time breaking up with somebody. Some people seem to marry people just because they couldn't break up with them, in the worst case scenario.
it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so in any case, I purposely broke off the relationship after we've been seeing one another off and on for about a year. And let it go for about the plan was to let it go for maybe up to 6 months. And then see how I felt about it. And the same thing with at the same time, my wife, although she doesn't know this, also gets an opportunity to live life without me for a while. And so therefore, it's easy just not to get back together, right? At this point, after you've been separated for so long, there's nothing to that made you have to be in that relationship. It's totally your choice. Go for it and see whether or not she's willing to as well. So anyway, that's what I did. This is kind of a weird thing that I know I've never heard of anybody else doing, having that kind of take on things. But up till then in my life, I always kind of played if anybody asked, I always thought, oh, I'll get married one day, but I'm not even thinking about it. It was kind of my attitude that I always displayed. But I always knew that I was looking for somebody to get married. And I really, my wife, Barb, we really hit it off well and everything. And I really enjoyed my time with her, but yet I still broke up with her. This was the hardest thing in the freaking world. Absolutely the hardest thing I've ever done. And I really felt committed, though, that I couldn't feel committed unless I was outside the relationship to make that decision. So anyway, I only made it about a month and a half. Both of us dated at the time in between. And I made it about a month and a half, and I just couldn't stop thinking about her. And at that point, I knew I was committed. Like, this would be it. I want to marry this girl. That's it. So anyway, I sent her flowers and I asked her forgiveness and asked if I could see her. And she did. So that all worked out. She was quite pissed at me for a while because I kind of told her that, she was like, why did you break up with me? Right. So anyway, it's kind of a different kind of scenario, but it all worked out very, very well. Once again, if she was so pissed off at me, she didn't want to be with me, there was something about me she didn't like, this makes it very easy for her not to want to be with me. So I felt very committed to her at this point because she's accepting me even after this. and I knew I had accepted her 100%. So we're fully committed, and I've never thought about it since. And getting married was just a sideshow. For me, from my point of view, we were committed from then on. And so it's kind of an odd way to go about it, but that's how I ended up into the marriage that I'm in. And it's worked out very, very well, except for one thing. My wife, for a decade, had repetitive dreams at night that I would leave her. And she would wake up and she'd get...
do that.
I don't know. I always assumed it was because we had broken up, but she would always wake up in the middle of the night that I had left her. And that happened for a decade. So anyway, I thought that was funny. If you tell me that happens to you too, well, that's great. I'd love to hear that. Because
so you're saying I got 6.5 more years, right?
Yeah. It was 10 years for my wife. She kept always dreaming that I was leaving her. Well, maybe that's something I should look into. Maybe it wasn't just me. I thought it was because of that she had those dreams. So that's good information. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's I've heard it more than once.
Yeah.
Just is what it is. He said, I'm one of those people, I don't remember most of my dreams. And when I do, it's only usually a snippet or two, thankfully, because more often than not, I love horror movies. And this is the stuff that makes me wake up wanting to scream. They're not good. Like one, I actually watched events happen and then watched myself die and watched my own funeral. Yeah. Not okay.
Have any of you guys ever heard of lucid dreaming? Has that ever anybody come across that? Lucid dreaming?
I've heard of it.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Being able to control your dreams, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, have any of you ever experienced that?
No, but I want to.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if it was a manifestation of that during the time period, but when I was in middle school, every night I had the same exact dream for years. And I'm not fucking with you, like years. And every night I went to sleep expecting to start that dream over again from its start. And, and y'all gonna laugh, but it lives in my mind, and so I'm gonna tell it. And so, no joke, like I every night when I went to bed would think about saving the world in some crazy Power Ranger type way, like, you know what I mean? Fight my way to the brimstone and beat everybody and do it the best I could. And it was always based on a color schematic for uniforms. And every fucking night I would win, save the world, but be remotely injured and be recovered by ladies. And then at the end of being recovered, well, I'll let your imagination do the rest of the piecing together. But it was hilarious as a teenager developing, you know, through puberty and stuff, having this crazy dream that incited every night and was a choice. Like maybe it wasn't a choice and it was a coincidence, but a coincidence every night for years, well, I'd find that hard to equivocate. Not that coincidences are plausible in math, but still it was like, what the fuck? And I remember it so vividly, and it's funny to think about in an overall spectrum. Have any of you guys ever had a really prevalent dream that, like, you know, you went to bed?
I've experienced the exact same thing back in those days when I was about that age. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there might be something to say about what's going on in your brain at that exact age, right? You know?
I think so.
No, that's
Maybe.
crazy. Where are you guys at, you know, in the sense of, I'll say it subtly, like it's not a big topic, but like in the sense of resurrection? Where are you guys at? Like, let's go round table. We've done sandwiches and camping and fucking the things you don't want to talk about. We've circled hopeless romantically. Like, let's where are we at in the sense of resurrection? If right now, as this call is going on, the entire world well, maybe not the world, but like all of our lives at least gone. Where are we at? Are we all in darkness? Are we all in
That's
heaven
the case.
or hell?
There's no resurrection because Thanos got the power glove and we're just done.
Marvel, I don't want to believe your comics. I want to live. Let me live, please. You know,
Snap. No.
No.
Denied.
No, but where are we at? Honestly, like in a real sense, it's kind of frightening because not many people don't get the chance. Like, it's a very small percentage of people who get sick and have a doctor tell them you have 8 days left to live, Joseph. You know, that's not often. You don't get that. Usually it's an immediate car crash or a negligent person or one of a billion or a plethora of reasons as to why your clock stops ticking. And so in that same sense, I have to wonder, and I do often, not enough to freak out about it, but enough, like, what happens? You know what I mean? I've heard people tell me it's just black. That's kind of comforting. You know, like, it's not. But then again, like, all your pain, all your happiness, all your everything is nothing. And it's like, okay, so that's one thing. And we can circle on that first. But to give you the antithesis to that, the opposite, the difference, the difference would be, you know, what if it just restarted immediately? What if it's not black? What if it's not peace? And by peace, I mean nothing. What if it's instant restart? And maybe not even as the same creature, but as energy.
Okay, you're not talking about resurrection. You're talking about reincarnation. Resurrection is when somebody reanimates that body.
Yeah.
Well, on Earth.
Reanimation, life after death.
Reincarnation is the idea that the soul actually lives on and then transfers to another life form of some sort and keep going.
Well, spare me the word, but there's theories of life after death that involve reincarnation heavily, and that's what I was saying. Like, there's some people who believe when you die, your energy can't be destroyed, but you become, you know, a realistic thing in a different universe because your
energy can be neither created nor destroyed. It just is there. So it only makes sense that it would have to go somewhere, and where the fuck is it going to go? Some huge, like, garbage planet up in the sky somewhere that, you know, in another solar system, another galaxy maybe, where all of our souls just kind of mill about. No, again, possible, because I don't know. Plausible, not so much.
It's hard to be plausible about that. Well, what about you? What about you, CJ or Brian? Where are you guys
Mm.
at in the sense of it? Say if tomorrow you knew it was your last day. No, we don't. Let's not talk about what you would do with your time before your lights closed. But when your lights closed, are you finding solace in the darkness, or are you believing that there's some version of next? Where are you guys at?
See, from my perspective, I do think about this a lot, and like more than I should. Because every once in a while, if I'm really bored and I have nothing else to think of, I'll think of like what happens after we die, what happens once we die, and it's just the freakiest thing to even think about. It's scary, because like a lot of people have a fear of dying. It's like a little phobia to it. I just don't remember the name. But it's just once your clock just ticks to zero, what happens? I'll be honest, I'm not sure because nobody can predict that. Some people say, oh, okay, it's just black. Some people say, okay, heaven, hell, whatever you believe in. Here's the thing: the people like I don't personally believe in heaven or hell. I think because I'm not like that sort of religious type crap. Because people believe there's heaven. It's like okay, there's heaven. It's in the clouds. Everybody's nice, and then there's hell where it's all like demon spawn and Satan and stuff. Okay, that could be one theory. But like if you're basing off of that, there's multiple theories to what happens after you die. And I think I'm not even going to answer that question because I don't know. And I'm terrified to even find out. Because any moment, and I think of this every single time I wake up, what if I die today?
Right, Brian, where are you at? Or Topher, if you have a
Uh,
response to say.
I, well,
B- before Brian gets into it, sorry, just because I know me personally, if I thought about dying every day, I wouldn't go to work.
True.
'Cause my job, I don't know. I mean, Brian may remember, I don't know, but CJ doesn't know. I traffic control. I literally play in traffic every day.
Oh,
If I thought about dying and thought, oh well, I could die today, that's not okay. I would not go to work. I would curl up in a little ball in bed and stay there
the thing
all
because
day, every day.
I think about it because what my job I'm probably not even gonna have a job for any long because I was thinking of like giving my 2 weeks notice because I want to focus on school. But I'm a cashier, so not really many things to happen there. I mean, we had someone try to steal something one time. We had paramedics come in at one point. A lot of weird crap happens at my grocery store, but still,
No,
Yeah.
we'll give Brian his answer, but at the
yeah.
same time as that, I agree with CJ. I mean, every day when I wake up, I definitely think about whether or not I'm gonna die or not, and it's not like an immediate thought, like my first thought on the table before I give my daughter a drink and take care of her, or before I greet the other people in my life, or do chores. It's not like it must come before that, but during my day, at some point, I contemplate. Is the anxiety, is the stress, is the X amount of energy I'm committing to this topic worth it? And what's the redeemable qualities? Like, if nothing I ever do in this existence is worth anything compared to the next, I should calm down. But considering I can't prove there's a next, I should give everything I have at this. And that's kind of where I'm at. But it's like, okay, well, we have as much to prove that reality exists as we don't to prove it doesn't. That's kind of fucking irritating. 50-50 is not my favorite odds. Like, I would prefer to have it in my sock. Like 99 to 1. Fucking roll it, Joe. But that's not what I can get. So as far as Brian, where are you at in the sense of, where you're
are,
at in life?
are you guys familiar with panpsychism?
I'm not.
It's kind of a new thing these days. It's been around for some time now, and it varies a lot. There's everybody for that are into witchcraft and woohoo stuff, all the way to scientists that have theories that fall into this category. Um, there was I think there was a guy on Joe Rogan once that was talking about it. But anyway, I know there was. I've heard quite a bit on podcasts, and anyway, there's I'm pretty sure it was Joe Rogan that he had an anesthesiologist on that was also believed in this panpsychism, wrote a book on it. Anyway, it's the idea that this is kind of mixing quantum physics in with consciousness. And this has to do with the search for consciousness and physics and everything, and then people looking for a bigger meaning. And so, anyway, they've come to some of the conclusions are that all these quantum experiments that they do, where like the cat in the box, which is basically observing something, has an effect on it, and then where there's a match particle somewhere else, it's always opposite of the one that you have, and this implies that particles can read other particles over long distances, see, over right across space or whatever. Because if you observed one here and you were to observe one somewhere else, I don't quite pretend to understand all these experiments that they do, but maybe you guys are more familiar than me even. And so this is where it goes into multi-worlds and whatever. So this quantum action may have something to do with consciousness. And if that's the case, that would mean that everything has some form of consciousness, every particle, every inanimate object, and then also every living thing like trees and then dogs and what have you. So what they're saying is that for us, we get our consciousness because we have a particular way we've arranged these particles. And the quantum action that's going on in there is helping us create our consciousness. And so therefore, there's a little bit of this in every particle. And every particle then carries some consciousness, some basic form of what you need for consciousness.
From a scientific point of view, all of our cells have programs in them, for lack of a better way to put it, because they know how to act. They just run this algorithm over and over and over and over and over and over and over again and do what they do: regenerate, heal, make this work, make that work, whatever. So that makes sense.
Well, that's at the DNA level, but we're talking at the quantum level, which is much smaller yet. So
I can't imagine it would be a whole lot different. It's just smaller particles running small. I don't know if you guys know anything about programming, but Java and a couple other languages, programming languages, are object oriented, and you literally have to build one object, one little thing, to do one thing, and then put it in another box with the other stuff that you want to work together. That's why they call it object-oriented programming. You have one thing and another thing and another thing and another thing, and then you have to put them in a box to connect them, and then you have to put that box in another box with other stuff to connect those. So it only makes sense that even on that quantum level, it would be the same thing. It would be much smaller, but they still there's still that basic programming that tells it what to do and where to go.
Well, it's not only that there's this basic programming, but it's also connected to another particle somewhere else. Yes. So there's this connectedness to everything that's going on, right? So, people that believe in, and this gets into more woohooey stuff, but, think that they can communicate with ghosts or communicate with other things, or you communicate over distance or see things from a distance. They a lot of them are using this in their theory of life, basically. So anyways, they just say how this is getting thrown around in a lot of different areas, but these are some of the reasons they do. I mean, if particles can communicate over distance, then maybe we can somehow as well. So anyway, this is kind of a stretch. I don't go there personally, but I up until I kind of heard this, I was always considered myself to be agnostic, and then I'm kind of leaning into panpsychism more and more as I hear more and more about it, and not the woohooey stuff that much, but it plays well in the way I think things work, and so I'm starting to think more and more that way. Another piece of evidence was the guy on Joe Rogan. He was an anesthesiologist, and he was saying some of the same things they use for anesthesia, which knock people out, that we don't understand what knocks them out, right? We just know it happens. They don't know the science of exactly what happens in your brain, why we can knock people out with different substances, eh? Anyway, some of the gases and stuff that they also use in the Hadron Collider, so that it slows down the quantum action that is taking place. and then they can observe it better when they can slow it down. So they do it in different mediums, eh? And some of these same mediums are the same gases and stuff that are used for anesthesia. So in other words, if we can slow down quantum action in these atmospheres, then those atmospheres might be slowing down quantum actions within our brain that then causes unconsciousness. So that's where he goes in his book. Anyway, interesting stuff. I find it very interesting stuff.
No, that's most definitely. And I mean, I think there's a plethora of scientists who study stuff like this, and it's not mainstream. You're not going to hear on the news like, "Hey, we figured out a new level of this or that or tick or tack." But I don't know what I believe.
I think you'll hear more about panpsychism in the future. I think it's a pretty growing thing.
I think that'd be cool. And in the sense of a few of the things you were talking about, the thing you were talking about that when you look at it, it's different. I don't know if it's the exact one you were talking about, but the John Wheeler photon. There's a scientist named John Wheeler who studied or did a scientific experiment that was loosely based on the understanding of if you looked at a photon in its natural state, it changed when you looked on it, not based on what it was. So when he looked at it, he observed this, and when he didn't, he was able to find out that it maintained a level that wasn't what it was when he observed it. And so there was a difference in the physicality of an atom when you observed it to when you didn't. And to the next level, the first thing I think you brought up was Schrodinger's experiment of a cat in a box. And you know what I mean, if there's a cat in a box and there was an object that would kill it based on a certain percent, and you didn't open the box, what is the percent that the cat is alive and or dead? And it's like, well, it's 50-50. In quantum physics, it holds equal parts alive and dead until you open the box. Because if you open the box and it's alive, well, then you have a statistical analysis of A. But if you open it and it's dead, then it's a statistical analysis of B. And it's a manner of, well, if you never open it, what's the analysis? Well, it holds equal parts A and B because it is neither A or B.
If you don't open it, the analysis says if it fits, it sits.
Right? You know, if the shoe fits. But if you never try the shoe on, then it may fit. And may is 50%. You know, there's so many interesting things like that, and we may never know, but it's certainly interesting. Before we dive into any more topics, let's just wrap around the group here. How is everyone doing on time? We have been live streaming for an hour and a half now. Is everyone cool to roll longer? Do you want to clip and start plugging stuff? Where's everyone at?
I'm good.
I'm probably good for like another 10 minutes.
Okay. Cool. No, that's not just choke. I'm with you.
No, you choked.
You choked.
We were good.
Okay, maybe we're better off with. I just got like 3 errors in a row. Maybe we're better off calling it and yeah. So let's go around the table. CJ, do you have anything you want to plug vocally on the show?
Vocally, I did send you the links through Reddit, so
yep, they'll be beneath the show.
But vocally wise, curing_curiosity on Instagram, curing curiosity on Facebook as well, and Spotify, whatever, Anchor, YouTube as well. That's basically it.
Awesome. Brian, anything you want to share as far as things go? We just had a few error codes, and I'm now reading a new live timer. So as far as I'm aware, we started a new live video. YouTube doesn't say that, but Facebook does. So we'll figure it out. I'm brand new at live streaming. But what do you got to plug besides the links I'm going to put beneath the show?
Well, if you look up your opinions or your opinion, and opinion is spelled with a U, then you'll find my website. And that's my plan to change how the world is governed. So if anybody's interested in that kind of thing, please have a look there. I could use some help. I want to change the name. I'm going to make it, it's going to be called Chaos. Chaos spelt with a K. And so I have a good reason for that. Anyway,
awesome.
That's what I want to plug.
Awesome. And Topher is on Instagram at Chaotic Neutral. I know that. Besides that, I don't believe he has anything else to plug. And I don't plug anything. It's beneath the video. If you care, click it. I could, I'll talk to you if you hit me up. Otherwise, I can give a shit less. So have a great life. Happy New Year. Thank you, CJ and Brian, for being on the show. Thank you, Topher, for putting in the time with me to figure out this live stream before we hit it. And I think we fucked up, at least on Facebook. YouTube seems fine, and I know Zoom is fine because I've been recording the show locally. So no matter what happens live, we have a full show. And so, yeah, everything you guys say will be live on Friday this coming week. And anything that didn't get captured on Facebook and or Zoom will be live then. So I will have all your links beneath the shows. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And have a great week. All right. Goodbye.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Cool.